Because your ego self is the sum composite of everything everybody else believe about you except you. The prerequisite for it to form the ego is you have to accept it as true. The irony is that as long as you accept it as true without questioning it, the subconscious is going to act on it. So this is why all of the great masters tell you to look within in order to find your way out. Beautiful. They was telling you the pass keys. This is what you got to do, but don't just do it because I told you, do it because you want to do it, because you want to be free. Right? So everybody start doing their self-work. It starts shifting this collective egregore, because all of us together is a mastermind group of a monument of proportions. And if you understand the principle of the mastermind group, this is why it's important to make contact with matriarchs that's doing key critical work in the community. Because you're forming a web network energetically from this information being transferred into consciousness. It's going to seep into people that's not even consciously listening. It's the nature of information. It's going to always follow the path of least resistance. So if it's some information that your subconscious know that you need to know, it'll expose it to you at a subconscious level and feed it back to you consciously. They call that an activated intuition. You feel something, you know what you feel, then you see what it's telling you before it ever happens. Now you know what to avoid. Right? And the ones that have the strongest ability is the women's intuition. Women's intuition is as powerful as Thor's hammer. But she got to hone it in and practice it. And it's normally done by mothers. Single women don't normally care to hone their intuition so that they can use they can use the musical instrument of the uterus to communicate with source. Jesus on the main line, Jesus devices. There's tricks everywhere.
Wow.
But just remember, tricks is for kids.
So when I was talking to you earlier today, you were talking about how you were doing the work and some of the matriarchs were doing the work. Can you tell us about?
It's a lot of y'all. It's a lot of y'all. Like everything that you're doing right now.
Yes, sir.
Right. We call this controlling your lane. Don't nobody do what you do but you. You can draw the information from the different sources in order to translate it for the people. Yes. That's a matriarch mothering her community. I come to support that as the divine masculine and to tell you that this is when I say that there's matriarchs doing the work, you're a perfect example.
Thank you.
You're following all of the information and you translating it where it's palatable for the people that resonate on your frequency to easily grasp. Whereas they couldn't get it from the other people you get from and understand it. You understand it perfectly fine and there's no breakdown in communication. And this was part how you know, because we can talk to everybody from the projects to the penthouse and everywhere in the middle.
That's right.
The proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that's P flipping like a mofo. Right? Yes. And the P flip to a 9. And when you get to the 9s, you get to the finish. Right? If you get the Queen Mother seal, she sealed it on the sacred seal. That's 13 off of 19. The mathematics is telling you the same story, that the work that you're doing is expressing. Right? This is why different tribes had pieces to the puzzle. The one who was exposed to the most tribes can put more pieces than anybody else together and say, this is what the picture is. Right? So some of the places we had to go to meet the other clans and to learn the different tribal ways and cultures from the different tribes. We didn't all have one culture. Just like Chicago got their Chicago ways, Detroit got their Detroit ways, Philly got their Philly ways, New York got their New York ways, Miami got their Miami way, and we all learned it from the NO. The Big Easy. That was the training ground to send us out to these metropolises. Country boy coming in from the field as a young buck teenager, ready to go out and experience life now. This is why Mardi Gras is older than slavery. Think about that. Mardi Gras is so old that it's in ancient hieroglyphics in Mexico.
Wow.
The same as Cinco de Mayo and Los Carnaval. It's the same ceremony in different parts of the land to honor the ancestors from the different tribal expressions.
Okay.
The Day of the Dead is an ancestral recognition ceremony. That's why you can't take it from them. If you go down there right now, all of the stuff going on in Mexico, and you say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to end any celebration of Cinco de Mayo. Every enemy down there is now allies. That's why they never took it from them. The same, they tried to take the Mardi Gras to New Orleans, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well. It's in the history books. But they don't say that they were shutting down Mardi Gras. They say they was interrupting tribal ceremonies. Is how they tell it in the history books. But when they get a geography, they in New Orleans. And the tribal ceremony that's most prominent in New Orleans is the recognition of the ancestors through the funeral, jazz funerals, which was the celebration of the graduation of the Book of Life, which is different from mourning and grief-stricken that you had to cross over because you graduated from your Book of Life. That's like hating on your homeboy for graduating. But you don't know that because the settlers came in and told you that all of the good shit happened after you die, but you got to be good here first while we abuse you and misuse you and steal everything you own. And that's what happened. And we fell for it. We so busy trying to be righteous, right, that we are neglecting the reality that we subjugating ourselves for a foreign agent that gave us this religion to subjugate ourselves with. It's part of something from ancient priest wars in Egypt called the Amen spell, which is the sleep spell. In Sumeria, it was called Kingu. It's a blood ritual that put masses of people to sleep. They just did it all over the world.
Wow.
And when they really cut loose, there was a magician to the queen named John Deep, reconstructed the ancient Babylonian blood magic ceremony that subjugates the masses of people. And he told her that she'd be able to use that blood magic ritual to keep everybody under her control until the close of the age. Once the age closed, ain't nothing they can do because all countries have to be closed.
Okay. Because
the new energy has to replace the old energy, and we got to put old business to rest before we start new business. And they was doing business at our expense, in our face, behind our back. We was watching them tear us down and making us celebrate it. They was using our natural ceremonial purposes, repurposing them as monetized celebratory holidays.
Wow.
Halloween was an ancestral worship on pumpkin harvest. That's why the pumpkin and the jack-o'-lantern is significant. It was the tribal harvesting of they didn't have no pumpkins over in Africa. That's from here. Right? And we've been had pumpkin rituals for ever since we've been growing pumpkins, and you can see it in the hieroglyphs and the petroglyphs down in Central and South America. So all this is old. None of this stuff is new. They crashed the civilization in order to conceal the greatness of who he was and try to shroud us in this mystery cloud hoping that we never wake up to reclaim our birthright. It's too late. It's too late. Trick no good. It don't work on us no more. And that's how you get a great reset.
Okay. So now that we're waking up, I mean, where do we go from here? Because we're so used to being controlled by the government.
So you have to wean them off of it like you wean a baby off a bottle. Some of them gonna kick and scream for their bottle all the time. You got them now screaming for who they're gonna elect for president. Which slave master? I don't want the good slave master. I don't want the old senile slave master. So they's arguing over which slave master, and I'm saying which one of them you gonna make tear the system down from the inside. Because if you don't know who we gonna make tear the system down from the inside, sit your $5 ass down and before you get put on the dog's roll, sent to a reservation because you're really delusional. It's over with. The corporate government fell in 2017. The contract of the corporate government was actually over when they elected the foreigner Barack Obama to office. He wasn't born here. This is why Trump brought up the birth certificate. Then when the lady that fabricated the birth certificate was called to come testify about the fabrication when the CIA said it was a fraud, and they did a whole Senate hearing on his birth certificate, we don't remember that though. The reason why you had to be born here to be president is so that you can be aware that if you're being taken over from a foreign agency. Barack Obama was a CIA asset.
Wow.
Secured through Operation Paperclip and in the Boys from Brazil cloning project to clone King Akhenaten. They think it was to clone Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was the patsy.
Okay.
Adolf Hitler, he was never the mastermind. Remember, Adolf Hitler was taught how to be an actor by a famous Jewish actor.
Okay.
He was financed by a financier that was also Jewish. Right? He was put in charge of the Reichstag, and all the time, Adolf Hitler himself was Jewish. These are the plots of the Zionists. They never allow you to see the dirt they doing. They use what's called a cat's paw. They use other people to take the fall. So that when we wake up, we will be misdirected. It's the same as the bull chasing the cake. But it's not until the moment of truth that the bull finally see the matador as his enemy. But it's too late now. Now he got blood in his eye and he can't even see. Now it's blind rage. Right? So, these strategies they use to make us oppress ourselves and fight for their agendas. Anybody that do any research in the political arena know that the popular vote never elected a president since they've been doing an election. Before it was electoral college, it was other special interests or secret society groups. Then they named it called electoral college. So now they already know who they're going to put in office, because in order to be on the electoral college, you got to tell them who you're voting for. So they got people thinking they vote count. The deception in the vote is, if I can find the people who can garner the people's support and give them concessions for their complaint, they'll keep the voting block under my control.
Wow.
This is how you create something called a civil rights leader.
Mm.
Because they can make the people turn on the machine and tear it down and rebuild it anew. It's right in the documentation. Whenever the aims of the government goes contrary to these documents, it is the duty of the people to form a well-formed militia and overtake the government and restore balance and justice back to the land. We act like that's not in none of the documents.
We don't know.
And they read it to us in history class all the time. But they give us the illusion that the beast is so inconquerable, why even try? My mama told me, as long as I stand in the position to right, tell the truth, I can't lose. So I'm in the position to right, telling the truth. And when enough of the clans people know, we already know that we don't have to go to them. They got to come to us. They got to come to us. We the showstoppers over here. Right. So this has been a protracted struggle. This has been going on over 500 years. We the elders now, Dr. Kia, and it's our responsibility as the new elders, which makes us the chiefs of the land, male and female. It's our responsibility to get information as best we can to the people to help them liberate their minds from the oppressive regime. It's our watch, and we ain't buying it. We not gonna march. For what? If I get done marching, I'm tearing something up. I'm not marching just to be stopping and talking about a problem. If I'm going to be marching, I'm going to be tearing something up. So I'm not going to be marching. Because we don't have to tear nothing up. They got to bring it to us. We don't have to go to them. We just got to remember who we is because they've been tracking us our whole life. From generation to generation, they never stop tracking us. When we think we run at a dead end in our bloodline, they got information dating back thousands of years to our bloodlines. They know who we are because that was part of their responsibility. If they was going to go through this process of redemption, they had to keep meticulous records of who we are. So when the rightful heirs speak up, they have global support. You have spiritual support. You got the support of the righteous at that point.
I got a question for you. What was the point of them using Akhenaten's DNA to create Obama?
They thought that a father could usurp could trump a son. And the rule of the New Age was designated in the temple priesthood to go to the boy king when he reincarnated. And the boy king we know in the historical record is King Tut. In modern history, we know him as Tupac Amaru. Right? So when we're looking at what they doing, they trying to trump or come up with a superior deity, a God king that can outrank the boy king. But then you have higher orders of rulership that comes in if somebody's trying to usurp another's rulership to enforce it. And you enforce it with knowledge, with wisdom, with understanding. You resolve the matter by exposing the secrets that they was holding to the public. Unwrapping the mummy is what they call it in the lodges. So they cloned Akhenaten because in the last reign, Akhenaten had a good reign till he ran into the Amun priests. And he was teaching the oneness and divinity, and they wanted to teach the multiplicity of the varying deities. He is like, somebody got to be the top dog. Somebody got to be the baddest on the yard. Well, it got thick enough for him to escape and live in secret for a couple more years before he died. but they assassinated the boy king, who was the rightful next in ascension, right? And the reason they did it is they was trying to stop the return of the people being aware of their inner divinity. That was the doctrine being pushed by what's known as the Aten priests. And these priest wars been reenacted under the Roman Empire as religious wars.
Okay. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So Judaism, Christianity, Islam are all part of the Roman construct taken from the Babylonian ritual practices. They needed them in order to control different temperaments of people. Right. So that's why they used Muhammad for the people in the Middle East. And then they took their original tribal religions, incorporated it into Islam through the Catholic Church. And then they deluded the people into believing